Happy Monday, boys and girls. What a way to start the week. You couldn't be more prepared to get stuck into Euro 2020 semi-finals and the final this coming weekend without being told this wonderful story. It is the story of Greece 2004. This is a very special show on King Otto, the movie, with director Christopher André Marks. Let's roll. Good evening, boys and girls. Welcome to the show, and can't wait to share this one with you all. But firstly, let's make some introductions. Back in the house once again is my brother from another podcast mother, Mr. Super Kevin Campbell. Bop. Good evening to all the squaddies in the house as well. And if you're listening on replay, which many of you are doing during the summer, as you should, you've been enjoying the beach. We do have a very special guest in the house today, King Otto, the movie. I absolutely loved it. And we're so delighted to have the director and producer joining the squad today, Mr. Christopher André Marks. Welcome to the show, Christopher.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You have directed quite the movie. And before we get stuck in, I want to share this with everybody. So get ready, you guys. Get ready for the hairs on the back of your neck to go up, even if you're not Greek.
King Otto is an absolute hero in this part of the world.
Ich konnte was vorweisen in Deutschland, aber ich war noch nie in einer Nationalmannschaft als Trainer tätig. Thank you.
Περιφερόμενος Δίασος ήταν η εθνική ομάδα.
Greece all over the place.
Οι ποδοσφαιριστές δεν είχαν κίνητρο.
Δεν είχαμε κάνει νίκη. But
The German coach conducts training through an interpreter.
ich konnte ja kein Griechisch, aber wir hatten erstklassige Spieler. Die konnten es auch mit jedem aufnehmen.
Πάει, λέει, ο Γερμανός έχει τρελαθεί εντελώς με αυτά που λέει σήμερα.
Πάρα πολύ μας κριτικάραν.
Do you quite like the Greeks? Not really, no. No, right.
Wir haben Außenseiter, aber Außenseiter haben auch ihre Chance. Come on, boys!
Μας έδειξε ότι μπορούμε να δημιουργήσουμε μια κοινή εθνική ομάδα.
From the shadows into the limelight.
Also Rehhagel's Greece.
Weiter, damit haben sie nicht gerechnet. Ne?
Beyond belief.
One of the biggest shocks in football history.
Greece, who are in Wonderland.
Das war eine unglaubliche Geschichte.
Wow. Woo! Super Kev. You've been there.
I love it.
It's so good.
Honestly, Chris, I absolutely love it. Because, you know, the roller coaster of the first part and then the way everything started to mesh together and how it actually came to a crescendo to wit. Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful story. And if any football fan likes an underdog, this is the one to watch for sure.
Kev, it's really Leicester City is a great underdog story. We've seen so many in sports, but Christopher, I mean, this is really a beautiful underdog story. And I want to take you to the very beginning. Kev and I were having a conversation and we were wondering, where were you in 2004 when this was all happening?
Well, for the semifinal, I was in a wedding, and it was a Greek wedding though. So the entire wedding was kind of half focused on the bride and groom and half focused on the semifinal against the Czech Republic. So we had down the line of the procession, we had a TV. So in the middle of the wedding, everyone was kind of glancing down and seeing. And then of course, Trent Stella scored in extra time and the wedding paused for a second to celebrate. So it was one of those kind of, you know, transcendental moments for Greeks everywhere, at least.
Were you? Did you grow up being passionate about football? Were your parents? Is it something that you really followed? Or I can hear the sound of New York in the background too. By the way, don't you just love that? Oh, New York. Anyway, well, let's stick to Greece. Were you a football fan?
Yes, of course. I grew up watching this team, and my dad took me to watch the team not do as well. But in the 1994 World Cup in the United States, it was kind of it was the first time Greece had qualified for a major tournament like that, and the first time they qualified for the World Cup. And they unfortunately didn't do well, but it was just the pride of seeing Greece in that tournament was kind of, I remember being a kid watching that, and, you know, one day to think 10 years later they were going to win the Euro, no one would have ever obviously thought that.
Yeah, it was interesting because we really were bad at football, and there was no hope. I mean, it just seemed kind of crazy. And I want to play one more clip right here, just because this seemed to be the turning point. In fact, hold on one second. I want to go back a little bit. Tell me first why you got into filmmaking, and I want listeners to know as well, because you've directed an ESPN 30 for 30, and then I want to really get stuck into King Otto here. Talk us through that a little bit and how the journey led to this.
I'm sorry, I cut out when you were asking the question. Would you mind just repeating?
How your filmmaking journey led you to the ESPN stuff, like after 2004? What's your story, and how did you get to kind of become a filmmaker?
Yeah, I went to school in New York at NYU Film School, and afterwards I got a job at HBO Sports doing sports docs and different kind of reality docs and programs for sports. And then that led me to directing, and I made a film for ESPN's 30 for 30 series. And just kind of growing up in that world in sports docs in general, it was always in the back of my mind that the story hadn't been told and hadn't been brought out. And being Greek, it was always kind of a mission that I wanted to bring it to the forefront. And so when that opportunity presented itself a few years ago, we just jumped in and went for it. So
cool. And how many years did it take to actually bring this to the screen? Like I know, like for example, people think that things just happen overnight. It took 17 years for Dallas Buyers Club to actually make it to the big screen. How long have you been plugging away at this?
Well, I'd say 17 years since the time they won in 2004, but also no, in my back of my mind. But we actually started this process about 3.5 to 4 years ago, and then obviously one of those years was COVID, so everything kind of shifted, and we did things, in the best way possible to keep it going. But it was, we had editors in London, archivists in Germany, a film crew in Athens. I was between wherever I needed to be, either between New York or London, and just kind of trying to navigate all of that in the middle of COVID. We were able to luckily get it done, and the Euro obviously was postponed to this year, so it was a challenge to balance all that timeline. But I think in the end, we were able to get it out in time, so it was great.
Chris, what when you started talking to Otto and some of the people around, did you still feel the energy?
Yeah.
They'd won it all that time ago, but when you spoke to them, did you feel the energy coming through them?
Yeah, and when they speak about it, they speak as though they've never told the story, even though they've told it a million times over. It's they're like, then we were sitting there, and then we played France, and because Greeks are very expressive in general. Yeah. So when you say that, they talk about France, it was like their face of sheer terror on their faces. They're explaining it. It's like, you guys won, you beat France, it's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, they still have that emotion for sure.
Fantastic.
This was a moment that changed football really in Greece. Vasilis Gagatzis hires Otto as manager of Greece, and it didn't really start off too well, did it? There were no believers. The media were giving him a hard time after the first game. I think they lost 4 or 5-0, and the Greek media wanted him sacked. There were people in the FA that just didn't believe in this project at all. And Vasilis did keep faith with him. He just was relentless about, no, this is the guy and this is how we're going to do things. And you really tell that piece well at the beginning of the film, Christopher.
Sorry, I think I lost you again.
At the beginning of the movie, you talk about when Otto comes in and Vasilis hires him, the head of the FA at the time, and no one believed. And after the first game, it was a pants result. I think it was 4 or 5-0. They lost, and everyone wanted him fired. But Vasilis was relentless about that.
Yeah, I think just, Greeks are emotional people, as I said. And so I think we have a tendency to react harshly. I mean, one of the players, Yorga Sataridis, in the film, he mentions how Greeks are people of extremes. They're either all up or all down. One day they'll herald you, the next they cast you into the abyss. So it's kind of like this sense of, people of extremes wanting to react. But I think what Mr. Guendouzi did was, being able to stand up for them and to kind of give him a chance to find his feet. I mean, at that point, he was a coach, didn't speak the language, didn't understand the culture, and a new environment, and you had to give him a bit more than, a week or two to figure himself out. So I think that, and obviously bringing in Mr. Topolidis, helped a lot.
Do you think that was a blessing that Otto didn't speak the language or understand it? Because because there'd be a lot of stick flying around.
Well, he obviously couldn't read the press in Greek. So I think at the time, it was I think it was helpful to have his partnership with Yannis Topolidis, because he kind of kept him protected in a way, and was able to filter everything that needed to be filtered properly for both ways, in terms of what Greeks are saying and what Mr. Rehhagel's perception and everything. So I think it was, both ways.
I want to play a clip because I felt this was the turning point, even though the result wasn't what Greek football wanted at the time. It was definitely a corner that was turned. And of course, it was an incredible moment for a legend like David Beckham. But just building up to this, I want the listeners to get a feel for it.
A dress rehearsal in Manchester today for the victory parade now expected of England. For the likes of David Beckham, this must be akin to messing about in his own back garden. No hint of pre-match nerves here against Greece. It's turning into a predictable one at the bookies, though. The payout for an England victory is hardly generous. It can't be too boring then for the German coach of the Greek national side. He conducts training through an interpreter, and his team is said to be in disarray.
Φαίνεται σε μια ομάδα πάρα πολύ καλή, με αρχηγό τον David Beckham.
Christopher, that was an unfortunate moment for Greece, fortunate for England, but really it was when things just kicked into gear. And after that, it seemed like Otto completely transformed the team and had them believing, especially when Yannis came on board, like you said. What was your engagement with him when he was talking about this period? And I like that kind of framework in the movie where he talks about the challenges, but at the same time, the belief he had when no one else did was quite incredible.
Yeah, I think the players, at least from the players' perspective, they, just tying England was a huge, massive accomplishment. I mean, and at the time it was 2-1, obviously, until the end when David Beckham scored the goal. But in theory, just having a positive performance and a positive result there was a huge confidence booster. And I think that, Mr. Rehhagel seeing them and kind of seeing that they could compete at that level was and seeing their strengths and not kind of judging them on their past performances, but saying, look, if we can put this together and play the right way, we have a chance. And I think that was the turning point, as you pointed out, just because it kind of gave them a belief that we belong.
Yeah. They go into the group stages, Kev, at Euro 2004, and in their group, they have Portugal and Spain and Russia. And
group of death.
Nobody gave
for Greece. Yeah, it's
chance.
the group of death, isn't it? It was the group of death for Greece. Everyone just thought, Greece will be the walkover. Little did they realize. I think what Otto realized against England, I've got something here. All I have to do is tweak and stick to our strengths. The strengths was the defense. Let's be right. The strength was the defense. But they had quality players, Zagorakis and those guys who could hurt you if the opposition let them. And that's what they built on. They built on that strong defense. And the opposition didn't give them the respect they deserved as well.
Yeah.
And Greece stunned that group of death.
Christopher, can you hear us okay?
So I can hear you. I couldn't hear Kevin at the
Okay.
end.
Yeah. I think what's interesting is that when you're talking to Otto and the players and you're getting a sense of, what they went through and what they experienced, like Kev said, he adapted the team to what he had. So much in football today, managers tried to put square pegs in round holes, whereas he said, this is what I have and this is what we're going to do. And that was the key. When was the key moment in your conversations with the players and the manager when it all clicked in? Was it Giannis or was it a particular result or time?
I think that Giannis's involvement obviously was a huge turning point, but also the England game, as we touched on. But as you said about using what he had, I think that was kind of potentially his kind of pragmatic experience level. I mean, he knew coming from Germany, he had a huge track record, obviously, in the Bundesliga, playing in the first Bundesliga games in the 60s. So I think, just having that experience and knowing what works and having, the ability to kind of go in and not say, we're going to play this. He looked at exactly what he had and he made the system work. And I think that kind of approach is why they were so successful, obviously.
So, Kev, when this happened, no one quite believed it, did they? Portugal playing on their home soil. They've got the golden boy, Ronaldo. It's a fluke. They had Deco. They had Luis Figo. I mean, this was not a cheap Portugal team, was it?
No, a very talented Portugal team who were probably one of the favourites to win it at that stage. They had some wonderful players. But the fluke happened. The fluke happened, didn't it? And they were stunned, and nobody gave Greece credit. They just thought, oh, it's one of those results. Still, Greece wouldn't go through. It's amazing football. Football has, can turn up these teams, and I suppose at club level it's a bit different than at national team level, because at national team level you have all the best players, don't you, in your national team? But to do what they done and defeat that Portugal side was immense.
And that was the first part of the journey. And then the second part was tying with Spain. But then, Christopher, they go and lose to Russia after doing all the hard work. And somehow it worked out for them to get into the knockout phases. Would you say that was a little bit lucky or just part of the plan? No, I think Christopher's having problems.
Yeah, I don't think he could hear you.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. They're tying with Spain, and then you're saying after that getting to the
yeah, I was going to say beating Spain and then losing to Russia. That was the first moment of adversity that the team had faced, and they seemed to overcome that adversity still and had that belief. Is that the sense you got when you were talking to everyone about losing to Russia and going into the knockout phases?
Yeah, actually, the sense I got was that the players at that point were ready to go home. I mean, they in a way believed that I think one of the players in the film says that they had weddings to go to anyway. And Greek weddings are important, so they were ready to go home. So that I think it was actually Mr. Rehhagel who kind of came in and said, guys, we can compete with France. And I think that belief and that never ending kind of support that he gave them and instilling confidence in them is, I think, what they could fall back on. What I felt from what they were saying is that the turning point for them, where they really believed that they could achieve something like this and potentially even win the tournament, was after the France match, because going up against France was kind of this, these amazing superstars, the complete antithesis of the Greek team. So in terms of superstars that the world knows, defending champions, this whole feel, and so the idea that they could, beat them gave them a whole new level of confidence going forward.
Yeah. I don't like anyone making Thierry Henry cry or angry in any way, but he was definitely peeved after that game. He kind of went Jose Mourinho and everyone, Kev, where he was like, they parked the spaceship, they parked the bus, literally. And that's what people couldn't accept.
And you know what? And this is why I love it. I love this movie and this story so much, because they bucked the trend. Greece bucked the trend. You're not supposed to beat Portugal. You're not supposed to draw with Spain. And you're definitely not supposed to beat France.
No.
In the knockout stages.
No, not at all.
And they bucked the trend. It was beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah. So this is when, Greece started, lighting the flares and waving the flags. And I, as a Greek, really started believing that, hold on a second, is this German fella going to pull this miracle off? Because when you beat France and you look at who they had in their team as well, I mean, it is quite incredible and it was a little bit like Leicester, Kev, when they can't keep doing that. They can't beat Man United. They can't do this. They can't do that. You can't.
Do you remember, Sophie, when Leicester beat Man City at Man City?
Yep.
That's when they knew this is ours. And this was the game against all that star-studded. You saw Henri, Zidane, Makaleli, you saw Thuram. They're all there.
Yeah.
And they beat them.
They did. You had Nikopolidis, the goalkeeper, who was playing with Panathinaikos. You had Delas, who was at Sheffield United for a long time. Zagorakis, who everyone knew from the Premier League, of course, with Leicester. Yeah. Giannakopoulos, who was playing for Bolton at the time. And the real hero, Christopher, and I'd love to get a sense of what the players thought, because in our minds, the real hero was Angelos Charisteas. He had the tournament of a lifetime. And my goodness, he went Batistuta on everybody with his headers. Talk us through the sense of Charisteas from Otto and the players as well, and you kind of making the movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think his results speak for themselves. I mean, those moments in hearing the Greek, at least for Greeks, hearing the Greek commentators screaming, Angelos Charisteas, those moments are kind of ingrained in the collective consciousness of the culture. But, it also worked perfectly for the tactics that Mr. Rehhagel was employing, because this kind of counterattack strategy and getting the ball in and having, Charisteas come up huge with those headers just kind of showed that, as a team, though, as much as they relied on Angelos Charisteas and how important he was, it was the team that I think that spirit kind of put them through. And obviously Charisteas came up huge.
Christopher, what did you learn about the team and Otto that you didn't know? What I love about the filmmaking process are the things you discover along the way, and maybe anecdotes you didn't know about, but also just kind of how they tell the story. What did you learn from a story that us Greeks especially, and as you said at the top of the show, have told 1,000 times, but every time you do, it feels like the first time,
Yeah, I think learning of Ioannis Topolidis' involvement and how important he was and integral to that was one of the things that we didn't know a lot about going in, at least non-Greeks didn't know a lot about. But I think just kind of watching Mr. Rehhagel's experience and the respect that the players still have for him. I mean, I'm calling him Mr. Rehhagel as who am I to call him anything but Mr. Rehhagel, but the players as well call him Mr. Rehhagel still. And they kind of have this respect, and he has this gravitas that, if he walks through Athens, he can't walk through Athens now because he's mobbed at the airport because he's like the Beatles arriving. And, it's like this respect and this kind of mutual respect that he has for the players and his team, and they have for him, that still kind of lasts 17 years later. And the way that they speak about him is so much, they have this sense of, gravitas, as I said, and respect for him that I think will just never go away, and why Greeks have gravitated to him so much, and why he's, they call him Rehhagles in Greece, which is a mix of Hercules and Rehhagel.
So what you're saying is that when he's in Greece, he never, ever has to buy souvlaki. No matter where he goes, souvlaki are free. I mean, I would think so. Basically, what I was saying...
I don't think Chris heard that. Yeah.
Christopher, I was saying
I didn't, sorry. When he was in Greece, sorry, what was it?
Maybe he never has to buy a souvlaki when he's in Greece. He never has to.
I don't think he has to buy anything, let alone souvlaki. Yeah. They'll play bouzouki for him. They'll do anything. Yeah.
Exactly. What's your favorite moment in the movie? I love the beginning part where you're going back and forth about what to ask the questions in German or Greek, and you got Otto. He seems like a character and stuff like that. What's your favorite part of the movie?
I mean, I personally get nostalgic in the ending when, not only when they win, and I don't want to give away the final bit of the movie, but just kind of seeing his respect and his, how important he is to Greeks, and what he did after the win is always just very emotional. You have the president of the Hellenic Republic at the time, and just kind of the way that they speak about him, it just showed how important he is to Greece and how important he is to the Greek people, and how it wasn't just a football coach. I mean, he made them believe that they could achieve anything. And that, I think, is why people love him so much.
Yeah, it's
winning changes everything. Winning, when you win, I'm sure there was people in Greece who wrote the team off, didn't give them a chance. And when you start to build that momentum, and then you beat France, and as you saw, the flares and everything, and the whole Greek nation are behind the team, and then they keep winning. That's the other thing. And seeing them win the tournament and the emotion, listen, this is more than these players probably even thought they could achieve. But the collective together with that manager helped everybody come together. Ultimately, it's the team that has to go out there and do the job. But Otto did help them mentally, that's for sure.
Yeah, I never thought in my lifetime I would ever see anything like that. And I think that's what just makes it so unique and so special. And we've long been craving a movie, a really good movie to come out that encapsulates all of it. And, from the very beginning to the end, from the loss to England. And it was funny because people say, well, you grew up in England and England are playing Greece. Who are you supporting? And that's where the motherland pulls at the heartstrings, right? It's just such a, how can you not root for Greece in those situations? And it gets to the Czech Republic in the semi-final as well. And they were no pushover, were they, Christopher? To get past that particular match, I think, Kev, they were favourites to win the tournament.
At that stage, yeah. They were favourites. But again, everybody thought the cup final for Greece was France. Again, that's the thing. Greece kept breaking down the barriers. One game at a time. We'll stick to our plan. All of these teams think we're going to flake out. We're not going to have the energy. But what we do, we stick to our game plan. And they stuck to their game plan. And boy, did they stick to it. They got the job done.
Christopher, what did they say to you in terms of that night before? You talk about it a little bit in the film, but any kind of off-camera anecdotes about the night before the final? Anything that you can share with us that the coach and the players shared with you?
Sorry, I only heard that. But so, what did they say when?
The night before. You cover it briefly, but any off-camera comments about what it was like the night before, going into a major final like this?
Yeah, I think, Kevin mentioned it earlier, but it's the idea that they kept winning. I mean, in Greeks in general, I think that, any Greek will tell you at least that they're very up and down. So you have one major, they win the games they're not supposed to win, and they lose the games they're supposed to win. That feeling of this kind of emotional up and down. But what they were able to achieve getting into that knockout stage and beating France, obviously, and getting to the Czechs, and then getting to the final, is they found consistency and they found a check in their emotions. They found a way to kind of keep themselves balanced, not getting too high and too low. I think that was Mr. Rehhagel's influence. But the night before, they were saying, there's no pressure on them because they're saying everybody expects Portugal. I mean, this is in Portugal. Everyone wants to say it was a fluke, the first match, obviously, because it's in Portugal. How could they have lost? But they're going to get paid. They're going to get their, what's coming to them basically for the final. And, coming in, the way that they managed to put the pressure back off of themselves and back onto Portugal, no one expected them to be there. They've already won the cup final, as you said, against France. So being their own cup final, so being there in the actual final and playing Portugal was just kind of, the pressure's on them. Let's go out and play our game plan and just keep it consistent. It's gotten us this far.
Yeah. Someone in chat just posted about the celebrations in North London, and it was insane in North London. It was insane in many Greek communities around the world. But my goodness, Athens. I lived in Athens for a couple of years, but I've never seen Athens like that. As a Greek, Christopher, to kind of see those scenes, what was your take? And then going through it as a filmmaker and reliving it again.
Yeah, that was actually the hardest, is to pick which scenes we wanted in the film, because there were so many that were so powerful to us, and we would get nostalgic watching it. I mean, just seeing seeing Greece united like that and kind of seeing this chaos that was not even, I mean, as you said, it was in Athens, but it was also in London, it was in New York, it was in Melbourne, it was all the Greek diaspora cities around the world, and just feeling united around this football team, which is why I think it was so great. And Athens has never been that crazy. I mean, people have said it was the peak. I mean, they had the Olympics a few weeks later, so it was just pure bliss. And, they'll never, hopefully it happens again, but I doubt it.
It was definitely a good time to be in Greece. We'll get you out on a couple more questions. I wanted to ask, what's the reception been like for the film in Greece? Has it been released there yet?
No, it will be released the end of the summer and the beginning of the fall in Greece. So we're very excited about that. And it's only released so far in Australia and the UK. But it's been great so far, yeah. It's been just fun to watch people relive it. And then obviously the anniversary was yesterday. So there was a bunch of discussion about it, yeah.
And is there going to be a big hoopla premiere in Athens with the players, with Otto? Is there going to be what talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, I've been playing this through my mind for a while. Yeah, it's going to be great. Just bringing the film to Greece is just going to be a full circle for us, and we're obviously very excited. We're planning a big event and hope the Greeks kind of respond to it in the way that we hope they will, and just remembering this moment and having it carry on, obviously, with this film.
Yeah. Wow.
Chris, what type of character is Otto? What type of character? Because he looks to be quite a character.
Mr. Rehhagel, as I say, he's very, I'd say as inspirational and charming as he comes across in the film, he is in real life. He just has this air about him and this gravitas that he carries himself in a certain way that everything he says, you're on his every word. So it was great for the film, obviously. And, I think that's why everybody loves him. He has this, he's German, but he has this little Greek charm to him, this little Greek spirit that everyone warmth to him. Exactly.
Yeah.
It does feel like there's this moment in the movie where he explains it too, where, he was being very German. And I say that with respect because that's what he was saying. He's German. He's used to his characteristics, his culture. And then there's a shift where I think maybe when Yannis comes on board that he starts embracing the Greekness of the team, the Greek culture. And, we do wear our heart on our sleeves. We're very passionate. We're very emotional about things. And he kind of had this teddy bear with a shotgun vibe about him, Christopher.
Yeah. Well, I think why he was so endearing and why he was able to get through to them is because he didn't, as you said at that point, he didn't come in and tell them, you have to play German football, be German. He said, let's make you the best possible version of the Greeks as you can be. And so that, I think, alone just kind of gives them a warmth and acceptance of what, by what he's selling in a way, because, he's saying, you guys are great players. Everybody else doesn't think so, but you guys are great players. Trust me. I have the experience. I'm coming in with that knowledge. So, trust my word. And when he got them to believe is obviously when everything turned.
And Kevin talks to us on this show a lot about when you have a manager and he sells something to grown men and leads men, it's something else. And he did it, Kev. He really did.
It's the unstoppable force, and it's the intangible that many people don't realize, that when men follow a leader, we heard it, they run through a brick wall for you on the pitch. They will die for you on the pitch. This Greek team who nobody fancied found themselves at a tournament. They found themselves at a tournament. The England result gave them a little chink of light, but they actually found themselves at a tournament. Chris mentioned it. Some of them had booked weddings. They had Greek weddings, to go to because they didn't think they'd get far. But I could tell you this now, and I'm sure it will come across in the film.
Yeah, it's
the more they go along, and the more they win. The case gets unpacked again, and they're ready to go. They're pulling their sleeves up because to be able to win in football, there's nothing better. Believe me, there's nothing better.
And it's so funny. I'm so happy there's humor in it, Chris, too, because you really touched on a lot of emotions. You brought out you pulled on the heartstrings, the fear, the happiness, the nostalgia, and the humor when they are talking about that, packing their suitcases to go to the wedding, it's just the way they say it in Greek as well. When it's in the, it's so typical. It was so funny. I love that scene. It's great. Really good stuff. Well, tell everyone where the film's streaming, where they can find it, and also let us know about what you're doing next as well. And we're going to continue sharing the movie with our listeners. It's one that I'll put on whenever I'm in a bad mood. I'm just going to watch King Otto.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's out now on Amazon in the UK and on Now TV and Sky Store. And it will be obviously in Greece and in Germany in cinemas soon, and followed by the United States and Canada. So we're excited about that. And my next film, I think we're working on another Greek story. After this, it's been hard to kind of extricate myself from Greek nostalgia. I mean, we were kind of this was so much of a passion project and a moment of pride for us that I think that our next film is probably along the same lines. So as you said about the emotion and the humor and stuff in it, I think it was more just the way that the Greeks are, and it just kind of came through with the film, is having this wide range of emotions, and the way they would tell the stories just kind of fully went with the film, and we kind of leaned into it to try to make it properly Greek.
You did a brilliant job. You hit it out the park, and I'm not just saying that because I'm Greek. Kev's not Greek, and he loved it too.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I recommend it to people.
Yeah.
I do.
Thank you.
Recommend it. Definitely. You've done a great job, Chris.
Is there anything that we haven't asked you that you can't leave without anyone knowing before we super let you go? What's the one thing maybe?
That they deserve this win, because everyone's been giving them such a hard time for so many years about how, the Greeks, but really if you watch it and you see kind of from their perspective, and you see that, they may not have played beautiful football but they had, they played the way they had to play. So I think just hopefully people come out of it and understand that they deserve the win.
Yeah.
That's my own personal bias for it, but yeah.
Oh, very well said. Very well said. Well, look, I know you're having some trouble hearing us, and you're flying off to Greece tonight. Give the motherland a big hug. Travel safe and enjoy your summer. And we look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Well done, Chris. Fantastic job. Brilliant.
Thank you, guys.
Nasekala.
Yeah.
That is Christopher André Marks, the director and producer of King Otto. You've got to go see this movie.
Brilliant.
It's just
what a humble guy, Sophie.
Right?
What a humble guy. Absolutely humble guy. And do you know what? That it could have been made, and it wouldn't have been, all the good stuff wouldn't have been captured like he done it.
Mm-hmm.
When people see it, you're gonna be gobsmacked. You're gonna be you're gonna jump on the Greek bus, and you're gonna get along to the end, and you're just gonna think, "Wow,
yeah,
what a fantastic journey,
amazing journey." And you know what? I never ever thought for a second, Kev, that I would ever see Greece win a tournament before England, right?
Yeah.
And what I love about this is exactly what you've just said. This is a Greek story, but it's a beautiful sports story. But having a Greek direct it and put it together, it just adds so much flavor and even more value to how he told the story. And you really do think, like, for a while that they were a bunch of losers.
Well, here's the crazy thing. When I watch it, I know they won. But when I see that France team, I'm saying there's no way they're going to beat them.
No way.
No way. How are you going to beat that France team? That France team were loaded from back to front. All the best players they had playing. And Greece done them.
Uh-huh. And how many legends in that team, Kevin, that French team?
Well, the whole team are legends.
And even the Czech Republic, I mean, that was the Nedved team. That was Pavel Nedved's team. That was a good Czech team.
Serious
oh
team. Incredible team. But
yeah.
And as you rightly said, at that stage, they were probably seen as favourites.
Yeah.
With Portugal. Greece took them out.
Yeah.
And then, hey, listen, Sophie, to do Portugal in Portugal twice, but in the final.
Honestly, once that header went in, I never thought for a second we were going to lose that game.
Yeah, you knew.
100%.
You knew. Absolutely brilliant achievement.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, don't forget, check out King Otto. And thanks so much for tuning in and listening to Chris as well. Top shelf human being. Kev, we have a few minutes left here. It's all hotting up. We've got the first semi-final tomorrow, Italy v Spain. Who do you fancy, Kev?
I fancy Italy in that one. I just fancy Italy because their defense. I don't think Spain's defense has been as good as it could be, and Spain do cause you big problems. Obviously, the way they attack and they pull you apart. But I just think this Italian team, they know how to keep it tight. They've got match winners in their squad, all coming off the bench. They obviously got a couple of injuries as well, so that might weaken them a little bit. But I just think that they've got momentum.
Do you think the injury to Spinazzola is going to hurt them, Kev? They do seem to be layered, a little bit like England. They seem to have players that can come in, do the job. We saw how he tweaked the midfield in that last group game as well. Didn't seem to bother them much, but he has been a shining star this tournament, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. He has, and that injury. Listen, it's not easy just coming in for a player like that who's a difference maker in the team. But I think Italy going to be okay because they've got a set way of playing. They've got the big dogs at the back, haven't they? The old boys who know their way around a football pitch, who know how to put their body on the line. Sometimes it's not pretty, but they get the job done. And I just think they're just going to get across the line because they've got a little bit of spice in their team.
Which team do you think should England progress versus Denmark? And we'll talk about that tomorrow. But which team do you think England or Denmark would want to face the most? And primarily England, of course, because, it's England. Who do you think they'll be looking? They want Spain more than Italy, right? Spain's...
No, I don't think it matters. If I'm honest with you, I don't think it matters. I think England right now fancy their chances to beat any of these teams. To be honest, I think they fancy themselves to beat any of these teams. Not conceding a goal is huge.
Yeah,
that's the way they've built a bit like Greece. They've said, you know what, we're not going to concede. We've got enough firepower at the top end of the pitch, and if we don't have it, we could always bring some of these quality boys on to open something up.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think it would make a great final, England-Italy, because, England haven't conceded a goal. I think that might be harder against Denmark. Denmark, I think, too, are much better than just the Eriksen narrative, Kevin. They're riding on that wave for sure, but it's actually a good team that is very well organized, and that's not going to be an easy game.
Good team, but England in the same for you've got to fancy England. You just have to.
Yeah.
Player for player. And I know sometimes you can't go player for player, but player for player, England are the better team. Go out there and show it.
All right. So let's give a prediction. Italy, Spain. I'd love to see like an old school 3-2 classic, one of those.
I think 2-1.
Yeah.
2-1 Italy.
Yeah.
After extra time, maybe.
So good. What I just remembered? I forgot in the Greece game with France, we won that on a silver. Do you remember the silver goal, Kev?
Yeah. The first one to score in the extra time, wasn't it? Or golden goal or silver goal or whatever.
It was in the first half. It was a silver goal, I think. It was.
Listen, whatever it was, the first team to score, you win it, and they won it.
It's amazing. Right. If I don't, I will get your England predictions tomorrow, Kev. But if I don't ask you two things, I think the squaddies are going to go crazy on me. The first one, of course, it was a big subject of Kevin Says last week. You asked some poignant questions about him. You gave us a prediction or a thought, not a prediction, your thoughts on how you thought the defense should play. And once again, the one thing we didn't want to see is Saliba going out on loan? What's your take, Kev?
Listen, my take is I don't know what's going on internally, but they obviously have a plan, and they probably think he's too young. I don't know. I could only go on. I'm a fan now. Why would you do that when he's done so well away abroad, etc., etc.? But obviously, they still say he's got a bit long-term future. And let's have it right, Sophie. He's still only, what is he, 19, 20?
I know, but so is Saka.
No, hold on. I'm just saying. Just saying. He's 19 to 20 years old. So, for me, he would be in the squad. But the manager obviously has a plan. So, listen, on his head be it, as we always say, he's going to live and die by these decisions. That's for sure.
It just seems, like we said, it's not about talent. For me, anyway, I said that on Kevin Says last week. It's not about the talent, because he's a talented player. And I bring up Fofana all the time. Same age, smashing it at Leicester City. There's something not quite right there. And, let's see what happens.
Arsenal, babe.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Leicester aren't Arsenal.
Yeah.
Doing it at Leicester is totally different than doing it at Leicester is totally different than doing it at Arsenal.
It just seems to me that if this is the case, I'm like, just sell him. Try and recoup some of the money while his stock is still high after having a really good season versus Nice. It's like now a £27 million player is going out for a third loan spell. I mean, it's just smells of bad fish,
Well, what I would like to have seen, Sophie, is if they're going to do that, get him to sign a new deal. Yeah. Sign a new contract. Then you can go.
Leicester may not be the Arsenal badge, but they're doing better business than us, Kevin.
Well, they have done for years now, haven't they? That's been our Achilles heel. So that's been our Achilles heel.
Yeah,
is our recruitment.
Yeah, this is a bit of a concern, but let's hope all the other fruit comes to bear in the transfer window. Guendouzi, what did you think of his au revoir note to everybody? He'll always be a gooner, Kev.
Well, hey, listen, obviously he liked his time at the club, but it ended with his petulance, really. And, for a young player, it shouldn't come down to that. If you haven't got the talent, fair enough. But he does have the talent. We've seen him, he has talent. But he's got to keep that ego and that feisty, probably nature in check.
I like this, and this isn't the first person that has mentioned this. Malivaganan, that's a hell of a name there. Why wouldn't we send him to Patrick Vieira at Crystal Palace? Why Marseille?
Because that's the Premier League. You have him doing really well and Arsenal doing badly. It reflects badly on the club, doesn't it? Seeing him week in, week out on the Premier League live games here.
It's a terrible way of thinking, though. I mean, look what Willock's done at Newcastle.
It's the player.
That's what's being reported, Kev. It's more about him.
The player makes his decision. Where would you want to go? And he probably said at Marseille.
Yeah. Was it Mark or Matty that wrote Guendouzi deleted that tweet immediately? I wonder why. Why would you do that? Maybe because they told him not to be too nice. Maybe Ozil phoned him up. Hey, Matteo,
get that off.
Don't be nice to them. They shout on all of us.
Oh, jeez.
Too funny. And then, Kev, the news about fans going back.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Stadiums.
Absolutely brilliant. This is what we've been crying out for. And, I just hope the fans go back and sing their hearts out, because it's been a long time coming, everybody. It has been a long time coming. And you know what? I can't wait to get back to the Emirates. I tell you, to see a game and to mingle with everyone and go to the boozer, and it's football. That feeling of being at a football game with everybody, everybody needs it back. We've been away and locked down for too long.
Yeah, for sure. I'm hoping to be there for the North London Derby, Kev.
Oh, very nice.
September 25th.
Very nice.
Yes.
Very nice.
Yeah. Although a really big faux pas on my behalf, but I think I'm going to be okay. I'm traveling to Europe to see my family, of course, and I'm going to squeeze in some football too. And because we've been stuck in this COVID bubble and I haven't traveled for work for a long time either, I didn't even bother looking at my passport, Kev, and it actually expires on the 18th of July. Bit like Guendouzi's contract.
Well, you know what? You just make sure you get that renewed, my dear, because we need you over here. We need you.
Oh, I'm getting it done, Kev. Really,
nice one.
Getting
nice
it done.
One.
Yeah, I'm all over that. All right, brilliant stuff. Today is still the July 4 holiday, so I'm going to go off and enjoy a bit of that beach sun today. Kev, you going to carry on working because you are a machine?
I'm working, but I've also got family up. So
nice.
Yeah. So Mama Campbell's in the area.
Oh, legend.
Yeah, Mama Campbell's in the area. My sister, got my nephews, got some family up. So
love it.
You know, this week's kind of obviously tomorrow. I've got a couple of bits tomorrow, and then the game. Couple of bits on Wednesday, and then the game, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is Mama Campbell time.
Yep. Love it. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. We're going to be with you every night this week. And next week we are going to go dark and take some time off and chill after the Euros and stuff like that. It's a big football week, so we've got some good stuff happening this week. And Newman, just for you, we've got Jess coming back on Wednesday night after the England game, and Dan Potts will be joining us as well. So there's I give
Watch
it
out
and
for
then
the love arts. Watch out for the love arts.
These ones are for your mum though, Kev, from Matty
nice
and stuff like that.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're right, Newman. Mama does know best, I tell you.
always. All right, so we'll be back. Are you back? I think you're back tomorrow. I've been saying it, but are you back tomorrow? You are, right, Kev?
What time are we on tomorrow?
I don't know. There's a game, right? After the Italy-Spain game. Maybe we'll pop on for a few minutes.
After the Italy-Spain, I'm available. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. You know, when you sit in the sun for a couple days, it just all goes Pete Tong in there, Kev.
Everything just starts easing away. Forget time.
You take us out, Super Kev. Let the troops know.
Listen, I thought that today Chris was incredible. You know King Otto, the film. Check it out if you haven't seen it. Absolutely incredible. Sophie's pulled off another absolute stunner today. And squaddies, we love you. We leave you, and we see you after the game tomorrow. Squaddies, I'm out.